Welcome back to Real Estate Without Borders. Today we're going to be talking about Airbnbs and most notably the five best and worst places to buy Airbnbs. I actually think we expanded the list to 10. Yeah, top 10. Let's call it top 10. Global
Love it.
edition of the best and worst places to buy Airbnbs. And we were inspired to create this episode by a recent news development in Spain, which is a place that we've talked a lot on the show. Anybody want to tell me what's going on there? No,
I'm
Yeah,
not.
I can do it.
I'm not telling
yeah.
you.
Can you?
Dave, go.
Spain ordered Airbnb to remove nearly 66,000 listings from the country. Their consumer rights ministry has reportedly ordered Airbnb to remove all of these listings due to the listings violations. So there's a big crackdown on Airbnbs going on right now. Spain is facing an affordable housing crisis fueled by rising rent prices and a surge in tourism. Again, we've talked about this a ton of times on the show here because of the golden visa program and like their efforts to attract digital nomads, nomad capital, whatever you call it. And so anyway, I mean, so Spain maybe getting crossed off the list if you're thinking about making an Airbnb investment, because this is a really popular style of investing that we see a lot of people doing, right? Like even in the US or Canada, you'll see a lot of people buy like a cottage outside of the city that they live in, and then they'll Airbnb that cottage, right? So they get kind of, you don't really get a return per se, but you get like this like lifestyle return that we'll call it. So you get to use the cottage whenever Airbnb guests aren't. A lot of people are kind of having the same philosophy with some of these, more exotic locations, buying investment properties in Italy or Spain or Portugal or a bunch of other places that we're going to mention on this list here, and say, hey, now I got a place that if I want to go travel, every year, I don't have to get a hotel room. I can go to Dubai, which is number one on the list.
Did they ban? So okay, I'm trying to do a little bit more research. I don't know if they did. They didn't. I don't think they banned
No,
Airbnb. It's like they blocked.
they're just
Was it
heavily regulating it.
Right. So I think what they're doing, they're banning a bunch of listings because they were missing like mandatory license owner ID, which not to sidetrack too much, but I think this is happening in Mexico too, and Mexico's trying to like eliminate Airbnb arbitrage, because you're getting people rent and then Airbnb it out, and the people that are like the middle people are kind of like doing a what's the word, haphazard? Is that a saying?
Yeah.
That saying?
Yeah.
They're doing that
Yeah.
subpar job of keeping that Airbnb up to date and up to like code. So I think in Mexico, they're doing the same kind of thing in the future, where they're going to try to like make it mandatory for like these STR licenses, kind of like Toronto.
Yeah. I think this is
Interesting.
just something that's going to happen gradually over time, to be honest. Like, I think this is just one of those things where, look, it's kind of like Uber or like any technology, right? Like you get this innovation that disrupts the industry, it's disrupted this industry, and policymakers are very slow to act, right? And they don't know the consequences of these things existing. They didn't know the consequences of the digital nomad stuff originally, right? But now as they start
Right.
to see the consequences, and it mentions in this article how it says really reached a boiling point between Spain being one of Europe's most popular destinations for digital nomads and remote workers, but the tension between locals and tourism has reached a boiling point. And over the past year, cities like Barcelona, Majorca, and the Canary Islands and Seville have seen protests and growing calls for reform. So they're doing something
Wow.
about it.
Yeah. It
You know
says
what's
they gave
interesting
them.
though? Sorry, go
No,
ahead,
go
Dave.
ahead. They gave 15 days to deactivate these. So on May 19th, they announced this and said you got 15 days to deactivate 65,000 rentals. That's crazy. Imagine getting that notice.
This is like people's like full livelihood and business. You know what I mean? That's the thing that's always scared me about Airbnb investing, is that like you've just left so much volatility and so many uncontrollable things. But having worked with Airbnb in other capacities and having hosted on Airbnb myself for years, I think it's a really great business if done correctly. Number one. Number two, Airbnb now, with all of the major pushback they've gotten in these huge markets, London, England, New York, Toronto, across Canada, across the US, and now kind of the sweeping restrictiveness across Europe, they even actually introduced a whole bunch of like, and this is not sponsored by Airbnb or anything, but they've introduced a whole bunch of new like 6 services where it's not just going and staying. It's like their whole thing was like, hey, like, go and experience stuff with a local. Here's a tour guide, here's a nona you can go make pasta with. You can book it all through. Here's a chef that you can come in. So they've really tried to expand their service offering, I guess, out of almost an act of desperation to try to keep their clientele, because unfortunately regulatory bodies have made it just really difficult to operate this kind of business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw
I
that new
think
update. It's cool.
yeah, I think they have that co-host network now too, right? Like
Yeah.
we've been running ads for that on our Canadian show, and I mean, I think that they've seen, like, if you look in the US, like there's been this huge sub industry built around Airbnb management, right? And so I think that they're trying to get a piece of that while also having a greater level of control over the, like, it's almost like QA, right? Quality assurance, where they're actually, now that they have their own co-hosts and they're kind of in the loop, they're able to make sure that what's being delivered is what's promised, and they're doing a good job at it, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. And so I think it makes a ton of sense. Really, really good business move from my perspective. The one thing I'll say, and then we'll hand it over to Dave here, regulatory risk is that thing that you just described there. And I think it is worth knowing, like, when you're buying real estate as a real estate investor, there are a handful of different types of risk that you expose yourself to. And regulatory risk, what you just said, Nick, is the biggest one for this type of investment, right? Where you have a business that you've just created that could be taken away from you instantly. And so the easiest way to really, really look at whether or not an investment is good, if you're doing it from an Airbnb perspective, because that's what we're going to be talking about today, is if I got the Airbnb taken away from me, would this still cash flow as a long-term rental? And if the answer is no, then you're exposed to regulatory risk.
Yeah. The one last piece I'll add to that there, and just to clarify, because I'm sure it'll come up, and Dave, you'd mentioned it, the arbitrage model, right? That was really something that's been quite unique to Airbnb, where essentially what that is, and I've had people approach me with my units that, let's just say, they're not in Dubai, Bali, or Lisbon. Okay, my rental properties are not in any of these ultra desirable spots, but I've had people approach me, and essentially what Airbnb arbitrage is, let's say, Dave, you've got a rental property. I go and rent that off of you. And in a lot of good cases, if you're a good operator, I would say, hey, Dave, I'm going to rent your amazing place in Bali, this great villa you've got, and you want $3,000 a month for it. Okay, great. That's no problem. By the way, I'm going to spend some money furnishing it. I'm going to rent it out shorter term. I then go and I have to make at least $3,000 a month in order to make a profit off that. And I go and rent it out on nights and weekends. And ideally I can make a lot more money than that. So the arbitrage piece is really interesting because you don't actually have to own any real estate. It's all an operations play. But I think, as you were saying, Dan, or at least alluding to, that's kind of one of the reasons that we've seen all these cracks form in the Airbnb foundation. And I think why the regulatory bodies have kind of come back on it so hard.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's get into the
I
list
agree.
here.
Yeah. We'll start with the top 10 best, and we'll go through. I was looking at the numbers and kind of analyzing to see if they're somewhat accurate or not. And I can only say from a few of them, they seem decent. So number one, top 10 best places for U.S. investors to buy Airbnb rentals. Number one, Dubai. Year-round tourism. Let's say, like they say, 70% occupancy. Average daily rentals are like $169 a night. Investors benefit from high rental yields and extremely friendly environments, no property taxes, straightforward STR licensing. And I think it appeals to like a high net worth individual that maybe is okay with paying higher nightly rates. They're saying $42K annual revenue on like an average Airbnb property. Obviously, that would depend on the property type. You want me to rip through this list here, or you want to do it one at a time? You got some
No,
facts
I
on
have
that?
it up on AirDNA here as well, which I always use for, like, analyzing Airbnb markets, and it's a 98 market score. And they have the annual revenue even higher. So if you average it out, I guess there's probably a lot of luxury rentals there. So you've got an ADR of they have it at like 750, which is down 3% year over year, but it's still 750. And occupancy rate they have at 62%. So I mean, seems legit. Like, it's a good market, right? I mean, it's going to have a higher starting point, but I think you'll get like your ROIs would probably be pretty reflective of that, right?
I feel like it's a bit seasonal there too, though. From talking to people that I know that live in Dubai, they all move for the summer because the summers are like
Yeah, because it's
unbearable
so
hot.
hot, right? Yeah, that's why it's like, I don't know necessarily if it's super year round, right? But 62% is pretty good. Like, that's, I don't know. I mean, it's better than like, a Toronto or something like that.
I feel like it's probably more common than, I'll just going to use Mexico because I lived here for a while, but then like more people would book a trip to Dubai than book a trip to Mexico in August. Like, I think that'd be more common to be like, you know what, Dubai is an experience. Maybe it's cheaper. I just want to check it out. Whereas like Mexico, it's just death hot. But anyways, what's next here? We got
Bali, Indonesia.
Bali.
Tropical
So
ROI hotspot.
yeah,
Affordable
take it
villas as
away.
low as $85 a square foot and low acquisition costs with 65% occupancy and a 93 USD ADR on average, translating to solid annual revenue, 18 to 20K per property, year-round tourism and inexpensive operations, low labor, obviously. Like you're not, in Dubai, it's more of a luxury city, right? So it's not gonna be able to find somebody for cheap to do stuff. But you get some of these more like second and third world areas where the tourism industry is really like the best paying industry. You can probably get a lot of your cleaners, staff, etc., for a lot better. Remember, you're like when you're getting into Airbnb, you're actually like running a business too, right? So yeah, I
Yeah.
think foreigners use leasehold structures to invest is one thing that they say in Indonesia, since freehold ownership is restricted. I think we mentioned that when we were doing our full episode on like legal, where you can legally actually buy, right?
Have you been to? I've never been to Bali. I think it's on my list.
I missed that. I missed that.
Truly,
I didn't take a
truly an
gap year
incredible.
after.
You don't have to do that. I went in my mid-20s and oh man, it was just an incredible, probably one of the coolest places I've ever been. And they're not kidding, like Dave, the villa style in like Tulum or PV or any of the Mexico hotspots, man, they stole it from Bali. Bali's like the
Yeah, I
original,
heard.
incredibly huge villa. Like I remember we stayed in a villa that had like it was like a compound. And it was like a few
Crazy.
hundred. It was like the price of a New York hotel. Like it was literally crazy. This is, I don't know, 8 years ago at this point, but like would recommend anyone go to Bali. You can do the yoga and massage Bali in the jungle style, or you can do the other stuff we don't have to get into, but you can do whatever you want in Bali. It's just it's an amazing, beautiful place. People are just extraordinarily kind, full of
I heard that.
expats all over the place.
That's the one thing
Great
I've heard.
spot.
Like, not saying people here in Mexico aren't as friendly, but I've heard because a lot of my friends go down here for like fight camps, or Muay Thai or boxing, and they go down to Thailand for a month, and they'll do like a boxing camp, like for crazy training
Yeah.
for like a month straight. And they say the food is just amazing, and the people are super, super friendly. That looks crazy. How much is this per night? This one on your screen.
Let's go back
Book it.
here.
Let's book it.
250 a night.
Hit
Looks cool
reserve.
though, eh? Cool
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Dude, every single place in Bali has a pool.
They
Every
went hard with
single
the
place. It's
Instagram
ridiculous.
filters.
Great.
That's
That
just
view
how
is
things look
nuts.
over there, bro. That's just like how natural your
Oh, they
eyes
got like a little
change.
compound here, eh? Like this person's making bank, but that's just that one house. Or is that
Oh,
the whole
yeah.
thing? No, it must be the whole thing.
No, I think you're right.
Okay,
Oh,
it's
is
that
it? We each get our own spot? Is that what we're doing here?
one. Yeah. Villa
Where's the
compound.
See if there's
podcast?
anything
Where's
with
the
Look, they have
podcast
the
podcasts.
video?
internet. This is funny, eh? They got the internet speed on the Airbnb here.
They do that here too. They do that a lot in
Digital
Mexico.
nomads. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, well,
amazing.
frick, obviously you didn't pick one of those.
And I got Starlink too. It doesn't reach my whole house, which is hilarious. That's why I'm down today. That's why I'm downstairs.
You just got to tape it to the back of the laptop.
It's under my shirt right now. I can't get too far from the laptop. Oh, that's good stuff. All right,
Okay, who's next?
You want Nick? Who's want to hammer out number 3?
Sure, yeah, we've got Portugal, Europe's Airbnb darling, and that is Lisbon and Algarve.
We're gonna get so much hate mail now. Now we've got 5 negative reviews from freaking Portugal coming in.
You know what? Portugal is one of the places I have not been, but I have heard nothing but like incredible things.
So this is a fun fact, actually. I was supposed to go to powerlifting world championships in Portugal, like when I was like
Like 30
25.
years ago, like
No, when I was 25, when I was at, so 8 years ago, but I broke my foot when I was at the hunt camp.
my God.
Yeah, idiot. Anyway.
The hunt camp.
So Portugal's become a favorite for Airbnb investors due to things like booming tourism, its beautiful cities and coastlines, and its reasonably priced homes and just overall kind of lower cost of living. Year-round tourism occupancies are in and around 70%, give or take, in prime areas. I've heard nothing but good things about
Me
Portugal, and I will hopefully be there within the next year. They
You
call
got a lot of
Portugal like
travel
the.
plans, buddy.
But what else do you want me to do?
You don't like the gray skies in Ontario every day?
Guess it give you a lot of time off on Farmer Looking for a Wife reality show.
Yeah, we only filmed for 6 weeks, so I got the rest of the year to just do absolutely nothing but travel around, do real estate research here. They call Portugal like the Florida of Europe, which I've always found interesting. I guess just a bit more
Everyone's got
cowboy,
mullets and
bit more.
everything.
There's the
Everything.
Portugal man, I guess.
What
But
Florida are you going to where people got mullets, Dave? Like it's
Thinking
like
like
Dave's going rural,
it's like
strictly
in
I'm
like
going to
Dade
South
County,
Florida.
Broward County, baby.
Jacksonville, yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm thinking Dog the Bounty Hunter over here. That's what I'm thinking right now.
I think that's not Florida, bro. Like that's like Florida's like
The Miami
crypto
Bros.
bro. Like it's like tanned
Listen,
versions of you driving around in fake Lambos.
the thing about Florida is I think it could be like any one of those things. Like Florida's like 40
Yeah, it's
different
true.
things.
It's very diverse.
Yeah,
Because the next one here is Florida, and this is like Disneyland, Florida type
Yeah,
stuff.
Unreal
So
makes
Golf.
sense.
someone talk about this one.
Some of my favorite golfs in
Orlando.
Orlando.
I've been honestly,
Yeah.
man, like I got kids, right? So I've been looking at I've resolved that I can't make it make sense of buying property in Florida at current prices because I was like really looking at it, but I still think it just makes more sense to lease because like you have all of these empty like places that nobody's making money on that you can negotiate pretty good deals. But they have Orlando vacation capital with strong returns. It says their Disney area short-term rentals average 68% occupancy and $180 a night, about 45K a year in revenue. You know, in some of the markets around there, median prices are in the low 200K range, making them pretty ROI attractive. I'll have to pull this up on AirDNA and we can see if it agrees. But any thoughts on Florida, guys?
One thing we missed and we skipped right over it was you said something about a hunt camp, and I just want to clarify. What is that? What do you do at like a?
Yeah,
I'm a
it's kind
city
of like
kid.
Lord of the Flies. I don't know. You ever seen Lord of the Flies? You read that book? Basically
I read
that.
the book in grade 6. I think they forced me.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Just like no, like
Sick.
no killing each other, but it's just a
I'm
bunch
thinking
of
like
dudes that go and hang out in like 800 acres in the middle of nowhere, like do stuff that like
just
just
eating
you
jerky.
can't. Yeah,
You're making your jerky up there, buddy.
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. It's like it's kind of like these Tulum nature retreats, right? But a little bit more.
Yeah, but at the same time, not at all. Yeah. At
Yeah,
the
Oh,
same
that's
it's like
time, almost the
cabin.
exact opposite, actually, from everything I've ever understood about hunt camps. Yeah.
But it's got a 90 market score on AirDNA, which is good. They got a 267 ADR, which is higher than what this list says. 50K revenue, 60% occupancy rate. So lower occupancy they have it at, but higher ADR. So I feel like
Moshe,
that's like a decent one. I mean,
you
especially if
like
you're a parent, like you want to have a place to bring the kids, right? Like, that's why I was looking in Orlando.
Well, the
I think
crazy thing about the Disney stuff is, like, listen, Disney is like a freaking cult, boys. There's
5 more negative reviews right
here
there.
we go.
Boom.
Good, I'm stacking them up. I read this
That
article
comes on
that
our show and just implodes their score.
there was this study that grandparents and parents would be more likely to take out savings or even refinance a house for a trip to Disney World.
wow.
Got to do it. Might as well. Why not?
That's what you're planning on doing, right, Dan? That's the family vacation coming up.
Yeah, I'm selling everything. We're
Just
buying a place in
draining the college
Orlando
funds.
on a rent, and I'm living in a trailer up here in Canada, and go to Disney every weekend.
There
Stay in
you
the
See
go.
cottage.
Hogwarts.
Financial advice.
That's not Disney. That's Universal, which is also sick. Like it doesn't even have that's what actually makes Orlando better because I go to Disneyland in California, right? Not Disney World in Florida, even though it's better. But the cool part about Orlando is it's got that Universal, which is like just epic, right? Like it's even way better. It's got the Hogwarts world. There's like a bunch of crazy stuff going on over there. So
Dude,
I
I
mean,
would
yeah,
go to
if you want
Hogwarts. Like, I want to go to there just to check
to,
out and get a
all right,
wand and all this stuff.
boys trip, Dave's bachelor party, Hogwarts. Let's go.
Let me
I'll
ask,
be at the
let me
hunt
ask the
camp.
wife. Yeah, maybe we can do all three. Tulum stop first, and then we'll go to a quick hunt camp, and then rip Hogwarts.
Okay, the
The
next
ultimate
one on the
bachelor
list is
party.
actually really cool, and I'm curious because I always wondered, like, they got dogs, right? Like Newfoundlanders, right? You know where they're from, Newfoundland. Do you think that Dalmatians are from this place on the list here?
Fact check that. Let me see. Dalmatian Coast.
the Dalmatian coast of Croatia. It has to be, right? Dalmatian.
Is
Man,
this
Croatia just
where?
looks so like nice. This is where they filmed Game of Thrones and stuff like that too. Hey, Croatia and like Dubrovnik and whatnot.
Makes
Confirmed
sense.
Dalmatians are named after the Dalmatia region of Croatia, where they are thought to have originated, while the exact origins of the breed are unknown. But that's why the name is the name. Look at that.
Makes sense. Good name.
If the
Never heard it outside of that context. I thought it was a dog till I read this list.
See, I would never have thought this would be on there, to be honest. But it makes sense. Croatia is looking pretty cool. Well, they got very high summer occupancy, obviously. 81% in Dubrovnik with ADRs around 140 to 150. Many hosts are grossing 30 to 50K in a season. Property is cheaper than in most of Western Europe. They're saying a sea view condo could be about like 250 to 300K. I'm assuming that's US. And Croatia is lenient with vacation rentals with straightforward registrations, no annual property tax on second homes. That combined with its stunning coastline makes it a top European STR market. Interesting. They're saying off-season occupancy dropping to less than 50%, which makes sense.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
got
I
a
feel like you still
78
have
on
seasons.
AirDNA. So like so far the lowest on the list from an AirDNA score perspective. Occupancy rate's high though, 76%, right?
Yeah, that seems high, but good for them.
Dave, I feel like you've got to read this next one. This is
Of course.
as our
Number 6.
resident.
Jeez, how did Dave freaking infiltrated the list
I
again?
just edited this in here.
Freaking guy.
Yeah,
I
wait.
manually tossed this in.
Why is that
Yeah.
font
He's like,
different?
oh,
Is that
Turkey hair transplant Airbnbs? No, let's delete that and put the freaking Mexico in there.
wait, is Turkey hair transplant stuff on this list?
No, it should be that.
No. It's got to be 10 worst, maybe.
Dude, those guys are fully vertically integrated, man. You can't compete with the hair transplant doctors. They literally put you up, dude. They put you in like a freaking thing. I
That's
I know
right.
this from a friend, right? But
Right, you haven't done
And
any
the
personal
veneers.
research on this.
no.
Dan comes back with a bigger butt, perfect teeth, and just like a full head of hair. Come on,
Dude, I
man.
need to
He's
get
like, oh, it's just in
butt
Cancun.
shrunken.
I was at
I
the
was just
hunt camp.
exploring Turkey, you know?
Oh, that's good stuff. All right, number 6, Cancun and Tulum. I can confirm that these numbers are pretty accurate. Mexico's Caribbean coast offers strong yields with relatively low prices. Tulum condos average around 160 for a studio. That's accurate, which is far less than U.S. beach towns. Tourist demand is robust. Cancun averages around 59% occupancy. PV, Puerto Vallarta, 59% occupancy. The one thing that I think when I'm investing between Tulum and Cancun is my concern with an Airbnb in Cancun is that you're competing with these big, like, all-inclusive resorts. When Tulum, you don't have any. Especially
Dude,
when it comes to like
do.
a slow season.
So when we do the ad reads on like for the podcast on Airbnb, like you know, a lot of the like stuff that we say is like, oh, when I'm going to wherever, I want a place like where I can have an office, because honestly, if I'm going somewhere for more than like 3 days, like if it's not like a vacation where I can just chill and like disappear from work for 3 days, I want a big house where the kids can hang out and play, and there's a pool and an office and all that stuff. And you don't necessarily get that with the all inclusive. Like that's the thing, right? It doesn't work well for like people who are in that like digital nomad kind of world. Or like,
For sure.
think about yourself, right? You're not staying at all inclusive for the longer time, right?
No. I think
So that's just my kind of counter argument there.
it's actually crazy. Like sometimes we fly out of Cancun, sometimes we fly to Tulum. It just depends. And like the people that are at Cancun airport versus the people that are at Tulum airport are just like so different, because Tulum is all like the hippie digital nomad people that are just kind of like coming here to work. And then the Cancun is all like the families that are just doing their first, their one and only week-long vacation for the year. But
Dave,
different.
Dave, I've got a question.
That thing. Look at how many freaking Airbnbs are in Tulum. You're right.
So you're one of many people that I've known that have spent a decent amount of time in Tulum, but I hear there's this thing called the Tuluminati, where if you spend too much time there, you just kind of get you're part of you're
big time, dude. Like you see people walk around and they like, you just go up, you're like, you need to go to a big city and you need to get honked at, you need to touch some concrete, you need to
ground
get
yourself
yelled
on some asphalt here.
Yeah. Oh, it's very true, man. Like
Take an
people
elevator.
blend in with the nature or something. Like what? Explain this to me.
like during
like 30% sand.
Yeah, man.
It's like the
during
opposite
the pandemic,
of touch grass.
it's crazy. Exactly. But those numbers are correct for Cancun, Tulum.
Okay. 45% occupancy rate. I don't know. You wouldn't catch me. I mean, maybe if you're going to be using it a lot, but it seems like a pretty high risk from my perspective. It's
It's
got a 70. Now that's the lowest. New record low on this.
yeah, the low season here is low, right? Like we have like super high season and super low season. Like no one's in
Only
Mexico.
the Tuluminati are left there. Eh?
That's right.
That's it.
And
That's
they're not
it.
looking for the luxury
Not
stuff.
touching
So
any cars, getting honked
no.
at. Speaking of places where you kind of just get detached from the whole city world, we've got Guanacaste, Costa Rica. Did I say that right? Guanacaste?
Yeah, I think you
Luxury
nailed that
rents
one.
with moderate costs. That's what they're
I don't
saying.
know what the moderate cost. I feel like it's expensive in Costa Rica. I
It
could
is
be
pretty
wrong.
expensive. I would consider that to be an
It's
expensive
gotten,
market.
yeah, like I mean, I remember the first time I went, I don't know, over a decade ago, and then the second time I went, I'd already noticed it had been. I mean, why not, right? It's such an amazing spot, but I just think it really did get discovered and kind of blew up pretty quickly.
See if I can find
Is Guanacaste like the
Tamarindo.
province, or because I'm thinking, isn't
Yeah,
Tamarindo the city? Yeah,
Tamarindo's the city in Guanacaste, but there's like a
dude,
bunch of spots in there.
I'm a big geography guy. You see that? Let's get that on the record that I got that right. That'll be if we can. I'm gonna prompt Opus. If Opus AI can remember that I'm saying this and clip this out for me, that'd be perfect. Dave, the geography guy. What are the stats on Guanacaste,
They give it a
Costa Rica?
67 market score overall on their DNA, 3 ADR. That's crazy. That's expensive for average for these. There must be like some big villas. The beach condo, it's saying $300 a night in high season, 30K rental a year. Here it says 60K rental on AirDNA. Short-term rentals are legal and common in tourist areas. And I would say the one thing that this has kind of versus Mexico is you're not really competing with a lot of these all-inclusives. Like you gotta be like looking for an all-inclusive to find one in Costa Rica. Like it's not developed in that way. And it's kind of been protected in that way, sort of like deliberately, right? Because I think they don't like they have just haven't really wanted to kind of sell out, be corporate. It's not like the vibe there, it's more like surf and
Yeah,
like stick it
very
to the
vibey.
man, bro, like hippie, like so I think it's not that corporate vibe.
Yeah, another place with just an insane amount of like amazing villa and Airbnbs.
Yeah, yeah, not doesn't score exceptionally well though. So what else we got here? We got Andalusia and Canary Islands, Spain. I feel like we talked about that enough. Doesn't really matter now because they're getting smoked by regulatory risk. We got Italy, or as our friend Tim says, Italy.
Italy.
He must be
Heritage
Italian.
tourism with solid ROI. Iconic destinations ensure high rental demand, 70% occupancy in Venice, and 164% ADR. 4K annual revenue per listing is what they're saying on average. And you can buy, it says home prices, 400K euro that would be like city center, 2 bedroom in a historic city center, or a countryside villa in Tuscany or Puglia. Is that Puglia? How do I say that, Nick? You're the resident
Puglia.
Italian. Puglia. 200 to 300K. And
Yeah, didn't
foreigners
Buddy
can
say
buy
it was?
Italian
Those
real estate freely.
seems a little light, but it'd be close. I've spent a lot of time in Rome, and that is just like you will have people there nonstop, and similar to like you'll have a slow season for sure. Gets extremely hot in the summer, so all the Italians leave and then all the tourists come. But that is just I mean, Rome's never going out of style,
I feel like that Tim mentioned that this was his favorite market, right, Dan? I
Yeah, he
think that's
did
what he
say
said.
that. Yeah. Well, because it's been like, it's the last one. He really presented a strong case for Italy, man. He was like, like number one is like the Italian brand, right? Like, everybody knows Italy and
Say
the
less, say
history and
less.
that. Exactly. And then number two was, they just haven't been cracking down because Italy's going through like a demographic collapse right now where basically like their population is actually in decline because it's a bunch of old people and a lot of people left, right?
Okay,
And
chill, dude. Why do I feel targeted right now?
okay, so like they're really encouraging a lot of foreign investment and a lot of repatriation of capital, and so they're not like cracking down on it like a lot of the rest of these places, right? So that's
Was
Yeah.
there
that's a
was
big
there
piece of it.
what was the tweet that you had a little while ago that we were going to do a show and get the guy on the pod? That was about Italy, was it not? Or am I losing it? About like all the capital, like was it Italy that's doing that? Like taking in people? It's going to bother me now. Do you remember what I'm
Yeah, I don't
talking
know.
about? No,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, I
find
do.
it.
So it's actually some people in my family have been actively trying to get their passports. Now, our thing's a little different. There was some stuff that happened after the war where like my Nona renounced her citizenship because like they kicked a bunch of like, she was a woman and they kicked the women out and were like, okay, you left, like screw you, you don't get your citizenship anymore. So it's actually not as easy to do stuff in Italy. And man, I'm telling you right now, like if you want to get anything done, and listen, I love Italians. I love going there. I was there for a month last year. I've been almost every year of my adult life back to the motherland, and you just got to get used to a different pace of life. Like if you're coming from like a fast-paced New York or fast-paced Western world type city, and you want to go to Italy and fire things up, well, be prepared to not, because it takes a lot of time to do just about anything. But regardless, one of the best places in the world for sure.
Yeah, beautiful place. I get the appeal. The Italian brand, right?
There you go.
I kind of
Okay,
That's all I
with
want.
the
That's all I
last-
wanted to hear. That's all I ever wanted to hear, Dan.
I almost don't get number 10. Maybe I do.
No.
I've been. No, it's not for me personally. Like why? It's okay. Number 10, Banff, Canmore, Canada, the Rocky Mountain Retreat. I've been to Banff. It's beautiful. I just I don't think I would be like super stoked to go back versus like anywhere else on this entire list. You know, like if
I'd go there. I'd go there once a year for sure. I like it.
really,
Yeah.
like if I said, okay, you got a choice.
I think
taking
there's
you
mountain people and there's beach people, Dave. And you
Fair
might
enough.
just be a beach person.
Yeah,
That's
I
true.
do think that's
true.
a
I'm a
thing.
beach
There's
guy
mountain
too,
people
Dave.
and like water people, right?
Yeah.
Like if you said to me, hey Dave,
And
you
you know
got
what
two
they
options.
say about water people?
Oh, I almost just said something real inappropriate, and I reeled it back in there. All right, so Banff draws about 2.5 million visitors per year. Yet Canmore, as a small town, or 14,000 people. Sorry, this means well-located vacation rentals can charge premium rates, and they stay booked during ski season and the summer. I'm guessing there's lots of like mountain biking and stuff. Banff and Whistler are ranked the two most profitable Airbnb markets in Canada. Really?
Yeah. I mean, just
Wow.
think of like small markets, literally nonstop tourism. I was born and raised in BC, so I grew up in going to Whistler. My brother just spent a couple of
It's
years.
just so worldly. Yeah? Like I'm just listening to this guy. He's like, this guy's lived in like 50 countries.
My brother was just out there as a chef for the last few years, and he was like, "Yeah, like it's literally nonstop. Summer, winter, like the shoulder season doesn't matter. People are literally always there, and you get a lot of Canadians doing travel there,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you also get
Fair.
a lot of international people doing travel there because, Dave, you know, like spending time in and around scenery like that, whether it be the Rockies or whatever, it we've seen it, but like if you come from a lot of places in the world, you've never seen mountains like that, and it is astonishing when you do, you know.
I don't
I
even think
agree.
Airbnbs are legal in Banff anyway. I think it has to be a commercial property. Like it can't be done in a residential zone. A lot of people do it illegally.
Well, that's
But
what I
I don't
mean.
even think
That
they're allowed.
and Canada banned current foreign buyers. So it's like,
Yeah.
that was my main confusion. Okay, I like mountains. All right, sorry guys, I don't.
Well, you could technically circumvent that for this one because you would be buying it as a recreational property for yourself, and that is among the exemptions for Canadian foreign buyers. Like assuming that the person is actually going to use it for recreational purposes a bunch on their own.
Fair.
Yeah. Okay. That rounds out our list of the top 10. Should we quickly blow through the 10 worst places
Yeah.
to invest in an Airbnb? Okay.
Hammer them out, buddy.
Number 1, worst place to invest in a short-term rental, New York City. They have a de
Come
facto
on.
ban on most Airbnbs. The
What does
hotel
de facto
cartel,
mean?
like functional, like I don't know, like kind of like
Like veto,
not there, but
like
but partially there. Like
Okay.
NYC enacted some of the world's strictest STR rules in September 2023. Rentals under 30 days are only allowed if you register and live on site with the guest, and even then, max 2 guests. All hosts must
Horrible.
register with the city, and unregistered listings are barred from advertising. Essentially, whole apartment Airbnbs are now illegal in NYC. This, combined with very high property prices, makes NYC arguably the number 1 worst market for Airbnb today. Let's see if
Terrible.
AirDNA agrees while you guys hit me with number 2.
LA, Los Angeles, USA. They got strict home sharing only. LA's rules as of 2019 allow short-term rentals only in your primary residence with an annual cap of 120 days for unhosted rentals unless you get additional permits. So owning a dedicated Airbnb property is not permitted. Santa Monica, which is like the neighbor of LA, even requires hosts to live on site during the guest stays. and limits to 30 days. So same as New York. These regulations, along with LA's high home prices, have basically vacation rent. They're essentially banned. Interesting.
And Dave, you may as well take number 3, just a couple short hours off the Pacific
That's
Coast
right.
Highway. We got another California special.
Props to you driving.
Dude, you could tell me San Fran's 2 minutes and I would have believed you. San Francisco is number 3. Heavy restrictions in Airbnb. San Fran permits STRs only in your primary home. You must reside there 275 nights per year and imposes a 90-night annual limit for renting out the entire unit. So only for 90 nights. The host must obtain a business registration and STR certificate, which is that $925 fee. Enforcement is strict, and platforms automatically limit unregistered listings. And the city levies hotel taxes on stays. Let's see. Palm Springs caps STR usage at 26 days a year. Interesting. Oh, number 4. Who wants
Look at
that
that? Sure. Toronto, Canada. Actually, Canada makes up number 4 and 5 here. I guess we're in good company with New York, LA, San Francisco. Toronto.
San Francisco has a 13 submarket score on Airbnb.
Wow. That's got to be one of the worst in the world outside of
That's the worst I've seen. Yeah, like that's
outside of
tracks.
maybe I don't know, some African countries or something like that where there's maybe don't go
maybe
here.
those would be fine anyway, right? Like if you're gonna invest, they could be. You might not get a great return, but you could. LA is a 22. Let's see what Toronto comes in.
See what Toronto and Vancouver are. Yeah, so primary residence rule and high cost. That's kind of why Toronto's landed on the list here. Like many other Canadian cities, has cracked down on short-term rentals to combat its housing crisis. You can only list your primary residence for 180 nights a year. All hosts need a license from the city, and they're actually really strict on this there as well. Effectively bans most properties anyways, from STRs. I've got a few friends operating STRs and Airbnbs in Toronto that are kind of grandfathered in, and they're lucky to have those licenses. And this is not even just Toronto. This is kind of spread through, honestly, all of Southern Ontario, where it's just extremely hard. And in a lot of the other tourist areas, like some of the wine areas, vineyard areas, they've really cracked down on these licenses and are only allowing a few. So and if you violate that, you can, depending on how you own it, I believe it's worse if it's owned in a corp or versus your personal name, but you can be fined up to $100,000. So pretty bad. While I'm here, I'll just jump to the next one because, again, born and raised in this beautiful part of the world, Vancouver, Canada, getting stricter and stricter. Dan, both you and I know and work with some people who have Airbnbs in this side of the world, and they've been through the ringer the last little while. It's really difficult because it seems like Vancouver and British Columbia in general, which is a province in Canada, has changed and consistently changed their rules. Like at one point it was towns of this amount of people, and then at another point it was this amount of days, and you have to be there and stuff. So anyway, similar stuff. You need a business license. The principal residence declaration is required. What's worse for investors? In late 2023, British Columbia passed an even tighter provincial rules, including mandatory registration with fines up to $10,000 per day for illegal listings. So if you are operating in Vancouver or Toronto, Canada, good luck.
Cool.
Number 6.
Yeah, hit me with 6.
Barcelona.
I actually don't, just so we're aware, I actually don't know if it's a th on the C. I think that's only their Z's. I think it's Ibiza, not Barcelona.
Another
I was
entire,
kind of making a joke when I did it the first time.
Another entire country pissed.
I know.
Let's shut it down.
Stacking those negative reviews.
They're phasing out. We talked about this a few times. They're phasing out short-term rentals entirely. Barcelona has taken one of the harshest stances in Europe. The city stopped issuing new vacation rental licenses and will not renew existing licenses. Aiming for a full citywide ban by 2029. Wow.
Still got an 88 on. If you want to do it illegally, got an 88 on AirDNF. Not financial advice.
The next one here is sad to see. This next one on here, another incredible place that is a very transient city that should allow for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you can rent pretty much anything else there.
What's the show rated again? Are we like PG-13, 14A
It's
kind of
freaking
thing?
just got a bunch more negative reviews. Leave us a 5-star review with how to pronounce Barcelona, please.
Or if
Please.
you've ever done any illicit things in Amsterdam, rented anything other than an Airbnb. You cannot, Amsterdam allows homeowners to rent out the entire home for at most 30 nights a year. So basically, like if you're
That's
leaving for a
crazy.
month, rent your place. Other than that, what are you doing? You know, like it's not really a market anymore. They basically destroyed the entire market, which sucks because such a great city. The thing about Amsterdam is
No
there
more than 4 guests at a time, too. That eliminates a lot of the things that people get up to in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
the great thing about Amsterdam is they do have like a ton of essentially like these are almost larger Airbnbs or like boutique hotels with like 6, 7, 8 rooms kind of thing. So I've stayed in a couple of those and they're awesome. But yeah, sad to see Amsterdam on the list.
Makes sense. I mean, it ranks well as like a market, but the limitation obviously like makes it so you just can't maximize on the or capitalize on the fact that there's you know decent demand. It's a 71 score on AirDNA. Paris, France is number 8 on the list. Capped and aggressively enforced. Paris permits short-term rentals only up to 120 days a year on your primary residence. To rent beyond that or STR a second home, you must go through an onerous conversion, probably a conversation as well, of a commercial property, virtually impossible for small investors. The city has a special enforcement unit that hunts down illegal listings and levies massive fines. In one case, Airbnb itself was fined 9.6 million for allowing illegal listings. In Paris's combination of high income home prices, legal caps, and active enforcement makes it an unfriendly environment for Airbnb investment. Many listings have already been wiped out since the rules tightened in 2017. There you have it.
The special enforcement unit for Airbnbs sounds just like a disaster. Good old Paris. Then number 9, you got Singapore. Minimum rental period of 3 months for private homes and 6 months for public housing. I have to verify what that means. Renting out any unit on Airbnb for less than 3 months is illegal unless it's in a serviced residence or approved hotel. Enforcement is strict in the city state, see? And violators can face hefty fines. With one of the world's highest property purchase prices and these laws, the ROI for short-term rentals is pretty much near zero. Interesting. Who wants to bring
There
it
you
home
go.
with number 10?
Send it, Nick.
Whoever does it has to do an accent. Okay, damn.
We already had an Australian guy on the
All
show.
right, down under, mate. Down under, yeah. All right, Sydney, Australia. Limit to 180 rental nights per year. Not horrible, but still not great. Obviously, you want to see as many nights of the year as possible if this is what you're building your business on. And that is for whole home short-term rentals if the host is not present, right? So that's kind of what that Airbnb Verbo battle right now. Like, Verbo, you get your whole place, but I don't know how they would slot into some of these. They would be subject to all the same rules. So this essentially cuts earning potential in half. Some local places within Sydney and other neighborhoods have complete bans in some apartment complexes, etc. Obviously, Sydney attracts plenty of tourists, but similar to other markets, home prices are extremely high and a bit of a housing crisis going on. So these rules have prevented that year-round Airbnb. It seems to be a common theme, right? Spain, Canada, Sydney, anywhere where there's a housing crisis, Airbnb gets the finger pointed at them. Not really sure how much of an effect it would actually have, but Melbourne and Brisbane, also two other major cities down under, and they also enforce 90 to 100 day limitations. So, Australia, not great, but by the looks of what you just pulled up on Airbnb here, Dan, 90, I mean, that's a hell of a score. So, I don't know. It seems to be one of those kind of confusing things. If you're going to operate in the gray area, obviously it looks like you can do quite well. But if you're following the rules and being a good boy, then, you've just cut your cash flow in half.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a lot of these markets and like it looks like there is still a huge Airbnb market, even in spite of like some of these caps. So you probably get like a lot of local residents who, like if they get a booking, they'll just leave their house or whatever, or
Well,
a lot of primary residence people, or I mean, a lot of people who have like you see this really commonly in some of these bigger cities, like I'm thinking Sydney, Paris, etc., where it's like I'm like, I'm a wealthy local person. I work and live in the city for the most part, but I maybe have a place outside of the city as well. And then if somebody books my Airbnb, I just leave and go up to the cottage or whatever.
Man, when Taylor Swift came to Toronto, I was like, do I just leave and like I'll go rent something? I'll go rent a luxury apartment in New York, and I can still pay whatever I need to, right?
My
So
fiance's got one in Toronto, and she crushed it during Taylor Swift. Crushed it, like insane, criminal price points.
crazy.
They do
Cool.
have a whole like economic study on the Taylor Swift impact on economies. She like there was like she basically like prevented a recession in like many countries.
People helping people. It's powerful stuff, man.
You got it, man. Okay, are we
Unreal.
good? I think we're good, right? Anything else?
We're just here providing value, man. Just
Yeah.
continuous, just
Value, bad
nonstop
jokes,
after. That's right.
PG.
Pissing multiple countries and cities off at the same time.
If you're
That's right.
offended by the show, I apologize. I feel like it's not that bad. I feel like, some good funny jokes in there, whatever.
That's it.
I mean, we're from the place that has done the worst job at most of these things, so and we can laugh about it. Anyway, if you enjoyed the show, if you weren't offended, please leave us a 5-star review. Consider hitting the subscribe button. Consider sending this episode to the Airbnb host that you're at the next place. I'll send it to them. Hey, I'm
Taylor
on to you.
Swift.
I know. Send it to Taylor Swift. Anyone like that. And we'll see you next week.